You know, I wondered why DreamWorks decided to release Kung Fu Panda 3 in January. I don't anymore. Hey guys, the Black Critic Guy, and here's my review for Kung Fu Panda 3. So in Kung Fu Panda 3, we once again follow Po the Dragon Warrior as he learns to be a Kung Fu teacher, reunites with his long-lost father who takes him to a secret panda village, and faces a new threat by the name of Kai and his God of War blades. Guys, I'm not gonna lie, this month has been very upsetting. Very. In terms of movies, the bull that's happening on YouTube right now, and a variety of other things. It has taken such a huge toll on me that I am just completely drained. I am totally exhausted. And I thought, at the very least, Kung Fu Panda 3 can be like the last glimmer of hope for this terrible month. Maybe this film can actually turn out to be really great, just like the other two films before it. This was just the final nail in the coffin, at least for me. This was the final nail in the coffin. Like this, it just cemented how shitty this month has been. No lie. I am just completely disappointed by this film. On every level. I am completely flabbergasted at how little they cared about this sequel when they put so much effort into the other two films. And no, this is not going to be a rant, okay? I'm not going to sit here and yell at you for 20 minutes. I don't have the energy to do that, and honestly, with this review, I want to be clear as to how this film failed in every sense. Now, I do have a few good things to say about Kung Fu Panda 3. For one, there were some decent scenes scattered throughout, like some decent action, or decent visuals, or one or two good jokes, or some decent emotional moments. The score done by Hans Zimmer was pretty serviceable. I especially enjoyed the theme they made for the villain Kai, although it did sound eerily similar to the song I'm So Sorry by Imagine Dragons. In fact, here's a link right here that'll show you a comparison between the two that I made on my other channel so you can see the similarities. And the voice acting isn't half bad. In fact, the voice acting is probably the best thing in this film. And now, let's talk about all the bad in the film. And there is a lot to cover. Now before I begin tearing this movie apart, I want to make one thing perfectly clear. I love the Kung Fu Panda series. I've been a huge fan of it ever since the first one came out back in 2008. And after How to Train Your Dragon, I think Kung Fu Panda is the second best franchise DreamWorks has. It had heart, it had humor, it had kick-ass action, gorgeous and smooth animation, awesome characters, compelling story. It had it all. So every negative thing that I say about Kung Fu Panda 3 comes from a place of love. This is some tough love coming from a devoted fan who, after seeing this film, could not help but be very disappointed, as I know this series is way better than this. The film in its entirety is completely derivative and soulless. It feels like the people behind this film put little to no effort, little to no heart, and completely forgot everything that made this series great to begin with. First, with the animation. For a DreamWorks film, this has to be some of the cheapest and laziest animation I've seen from the studio thus far. Now granted, it could be much worse, but for DreamWorks, who for the past 10 years has given us some amazing animation, I expected better. Except for two scenes in the film at the beginning and near the end, both of which are pretty short, nothing in the animation really pops out. Most of the backgrounds look so flat, as if they just hand painted them at the last minute. A lot of things look very low res and weren't fully rendered. And the 3D animation used looks like something you would see in a TV show, but slightly better, but not by much. And with such subpar animation, the action scenes are also affected. Not only was the film lacking in action, but the action scenes that we got lacked any flair, energy, intensity, or even creativity that the past two films have had. They're as generic as action scenes can possibly be. Punch, kick, punch, kick, punch, punch, kick, flip, roll, throw something back, punch, kick, punch, kick, 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 punch, flip, fly into the air. That's really all you get in this film. The closest thing to a creative action sequence in this film is near the end, but they even squandered that, as it's just the whole train the entire village to fight off the enemies type cliche that we have seen in dozens of other films and done better. Not to mention there's a huge lack of tension in this fight sequence. It's just a whole bunch of silliness on the screen. And speaking of that, do you know why there's such a huge lack of action? Because the film thought it was a great idea to focus way too much on the comedy, and not even good comedy. It relied heavily on silly antics, drawn out and humorless dialogue, and an overabundance of slapstick. Now that's not to say that the other two films don't have slapstick. They do, but they use it properly, and most importantly, sparingly. They knew how to integrate it into the story as well as the action sequences. In this film, they just throw you slapstick every 2 minutes, regardless of whether or not it's in an action scene or it serves a purpose to the story. They're just like, here's some throwaway slapstick. Oh, I bet you're laughing out loud. No, I'm not. The story is also cliche, not only borrowing heavily from the first Kung Fu Panda, but having so many damn subplots that it has no clear direction. The story has no focus. Is it a story about Po learning to become a Kung Fu teacher? Or is it a story about Po reuniting and reconnecting with his father and clan? Or is it a story about this guy named Kai who had a feud with Oogway and came back from the spirit world and is trying to find all of Oogway's apprentices and people that trained under him so that he could fight and take their chi, and then the Dragon Warrior has to stop them? It's not really clear. They all kind of just mesh together in one big confusing cluster. The story also backpedals a lot for some reason, especially when it came to Po being unsure of whether or not he's the Dragon Warrior, when we've already seen 2 films that not only told us he was the Dragon Warrior, but did an excellent job at showing us he was the Dragon Warrior, as well as the whole identity crisis that Po faces. We have seen this before in the second film and done way better. Not to mention that Po's father, the Duck Guy, was acting surprisingly out of character in this film. I didn't like seeing that. And I'm gonna say it right here. The whole teaching subplot in the film, completely unnecessary and stupid. You didn't need to bring that up as an issue for the main character to face. If you brought it up at the end of the film, it wouldn't change anything about the story. It didn't need to be its own subplot. Not to mention that I don't buy the fact that after a couple of years, Po now gets to teach the Furious Five, who all have been training for probably decades and are already great, fantastic warriors. You don't need to train the Furious Five. In fact, if anything, that's pretty insulting. And the last major issue with this film were the characters, both old and new. They were incredibly weak. It especially hurt to see how poorly they handled the established characters. Po in this film is ridiculously more annoying than he has ever been. In the past 2 films, though his character was a bit annoying, he had charm and humor to him that made us like him, that made us cheer for him and want him to succeed through all of the obstacles, trials, and tribulations he faced throughout the film. In this one, he constantly acts like a petulant child. Now I hear many of you saying, well, he's always been a petulant child. That's always been his character. Not in the second film. You saw a little growth in his character in the second film. It feels like here in the third film, he just like reset it back to what he was like in the first film, kind of going hand in hand to what I was saying earlier about how this film really backpedals a lot and borrows heavily from the first film. This is a fine example. They reverted the character back to what he was in the first film. Him going ooh and ah and always like having wonderment and all that stuff. It worked for the first film, but it doesn't work for the third film. Your character needs to grow. Po needs to grow. And for the first time in this series, I felt like Po didn't earn the thing that he got at the end of the film. It was more or less given to him because, I don't know, Deus Ex Machina, main character syndrome, I guess. In the first film, Po struggled to become the Dragon Warrior. He went through trials, tribulations, mockery, ridicule. He got beat up constantly until he rose above it and learned to accept himself for who he is in order to become the Dragon Warrior he was meant to be. In the second film, he was trying to obtain inner peace, and again went through a lot of trials and tribulations, uncovered the mysteries of his past, and finally obtained inner peace. He went through a lot of struggles to obtain all of these things. In the third film, he went through no struggles, he went through no trials and tribulations, or even uncovered anything about himself. He just was, bam, here you go, you have this, you mastered this now, and you're all good. No, movie, you're better than that. You're so much better than that. Oh, and I never felt a real bond between him and his long-lost father. I never felt like they connected, and his father is a pretty bland character. I mean, yeah, it's cool, Bryan Cranston voices him, but he doesn't do anything with the role. The Furious 5 in this film, oh my god, they are terribly pushed to the sidelines. They barely do anything worth mentioning in the film. At least in the second film, they were a part of the journey. They bonded with Po, and they worked as a team. Here in the third film, they kind of just like stand around and let Po go on his own personal journey. Yeah, we'll see you when you get back, but no, we'll be turning to these Jade Warriors because the villain, Kai's gonna kidnap us, and oh yeah, don't worry about us, you know, we're not gonna fight as a team at all. What the hell? What the actual hell? The whole purpose of having the Furious 5 is to include them on the journey. Why are they not included in the journey? Why couldn't they do anything? Why didn't they not offer anything into this movie? Like, seriously, don't sideline them. They're great characters. They're awesome. Like, Monkey's cool. You know, as much as Monkey doesn't talk in the film, he's cool. And he's voiced by Jackie Chan. That's awesome. Speaking of which, Monkey actually has more lines in this film than he has ever had in any of the previous two films. I thought that was interesting. If only they did more with this character. In fact, speaking of Monkey, there is one scene, it actually was a really good scene, where you see Monkey and Po kind of share a bonding moment. It was cool. It's very, very brief, but it was cool, and that's what I wanted to see in the film. I wanted to see them all kind of just bond together. They work as a team. You don't see that in the film. And then there's Kai, the main antagonist of the film. He is without question the most lackluster villain I've ever seen in this series. He's not cool. He's not badass. He's not interesting. Hell, he doesn't even have much of a purpose as a villain. Like, seriously, what is his purpose? What is he trying to do? Kung Fu Panda 1, the villain Tai Lung breaks out of prison in order to get revenge on those who have wronged him. Kung Fu Panda 2, Lord Shen wants to rid the world of Kung Fu and to take over all of China using his gunpowder weapons. Kung Fu Panda 3, Kai. I guess he wants power, but I mean, what does he want the power? There's no purpose. What does he want the power for? Does he want it to rule the world? Does he want to be the most powerful being in the world? Does he want to like carve up his own harem? The character has no drive. The character has no intrigue. The character is incredibly hollow. If it weren't for J.K. Simmons voicing the character, I wouldn't even think about him anymore. I honestly, even with that, I don't really think about him anymore. He's just a really, really bad villain. He's really bad. And then the pandas of the film. Overall, guys, I'm extremely disappointed in Kung Fu Panda 3. It had all the opportunities in the world to be a great film, to be another fantastic installment in this already excellent series. They had 5 years to really flesh out the story, bring out the characters, come up with some interesting and creative action sequences, to give us some fantastic and beautiful animation. But they squandered it all and tarnish the very name of this franchise. They literally pulled a Shrek the Third. I am not even joking. It's as bad, if not even worse, than Shrek the Third. And that's why it pains my heart to give Kung Fu Panda 3 a 1 out of 5 stars. It is just an unnecessary waste of time. Even if you're a fan of this series, don't see it. But as always, I'm not the end-all be-all opinion when it comes to this film. I know many of you may agree with me and many of you may actually really like the film. So, let me know. Do you guys really like the film? Did you get a kick out of it? Or do you agree with all my points and find it really generic and just a huge letdown? And let me know, what is the biggest movie letdown you have ever seen? Comment below and let me know. And stay tuned, the next top 10 list will be coming out later on today at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, followed by the top 10 most hated male anime characters and then the top 10 favorite male anime characters on February 1st. Dang, I wanted to keep it all in January, but certain situations came about and just I couldn't do it. So, but hey, you'll be getting 2 videos on that day. You'll be getting the top 10 and a very special gag comic courtesy of yours truly and Ben Tuttle. So until those videos come, guys, if you'd like to see more videos on this channel, be a part of the Black Critic crew, please hit that subscribe button below. Like this video if you really enjoyed it. I'm Tony Wilder II, just fucking disappointed in this month, man. That's the Black Critic Guy. Till then, peace, YouTube.
No.